You are never stuck. You always have options. There's always a way out. Even if it doesn't feel like it. It might be a really hard path that you have to begin walking down, but you can do it. Hello there. It's Mandy Woodard, and this is Courageous Conversations. The show is all about our life journey and the growing and healing we go through. Sometimes it takes great courage to step out of where we are and choose a different path. I started this show because I wanted you to know that you are not alone, no matter where you are in your life journey. And my hope is that you will hear a story that I share or a conversation that I have, and you will get something out of it. You will have an aha moment or a realization, and you'll know what you need to do, because it is my belief that we are all here to help each other grow and become the best version of ourselves and find what our purpose is. So thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Let's get started. Hello, my friend. Welcome to episode 20. It is March 21st. On the day that this podcast publishes anyway. I'm actually recording on the 19th, which is the Sunday before. And I don't normally record on Sundays. Last week got to be a mess because I ended up recording with my husband on a Monday and then publishing on a Tuesday. And now here I am on a Sunday. Got to get it published for a Tuesday. I much prefer to do these things in advance so that I have plenty of time. But I'm actually going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about why I'm just now recording. Because today's topic is about feeling stuck. I know a lot of times people feel stuck in where they are. And it can be in a variety of ways. It could be something small like mentally stuck, just need to come up with something, an idea or some sort, and you can't. Or maybe you feel big time stuck in your life and you know you need to make a shift, but you don't know where to go. I'm trying to remember if I talked about this in season 1. And I'm going to say, you know what, it doesn't matter because we need to hear things over and over again sometimes. And in different ways from multiple different people. I may actually repeat myself on this podcast, but I'm trusting that it's because maybe you just need to hear it. I kind of feel like I've maybe talked about some of this stuff, but I'm not sure. I will tell you though, when I was going through my notebook, I have started a brainstorming session for an episode about feeling stuck 2 or 3 different times. And I just thought that was really funny. It's like I would get to a certain point and then have a creative block and not sure which way to go. So I would just leave it at that and think, okay, well, it's going to come to me when it's supposed to come to me, and that's okay. So last week I knew that this week's topic would be feeling stuck or in a low, in a predicament, however we want to word this. And I found myself beginning to feel stuck, similar to what I was seeing in my notebooks. And I honestly think that a huge part of it is because we call in what we speak out. And as I'm talking about the word stuck, I am literally creating that kind of a reality for myself. I'm speaking into existence the idea of feeling stuck. So maybe I shouldn't even be using that word. I believe that there is no such thing as being stuck. We always have options. We always have things we can do. We just sometimes need to shift our perspective. And I know that I was never really stuck. I was never really stuck when I was trying to figure out what to talk about here. What I needed was to get myself in a better environment. I needed to be able to get myself into that place that allows me to intuitively tap in to that creative side and then allow that space for the words to come through me. So each day I thought about it. I planned to get up and record before my kids got up, and it just kept not happening. And I knew I needed to just trust the timing, trust that it was going to happen right when it was supposed to happen. So today's Sunday, and I allowed myself that time to gather inspiration, think about things, take notes. I've been taking notes in my phone. I've been writing on my notebook, on my whiteboard. What's interesting about all of this, though, is from a human design standpoint, I have what's called a defined route. And I don't feel pressure to hurry up and get things off of my plate. I feel totally at ease waiting and allowing for things to play out as they should. And that's what's happened here. People with an undefined route might feel like they need to hurry up and get things off their plates. That's a not self theme. All imperfect timing is what we want to lean into, but it's the not self theme to feel like you got to hurry up and get everything done, check off that list as quick as you can. There's also something called environments in human design, and this is where you thrive. Mine is kitchen's wet. I know that sounds so funny, but essentially I need to be by water. So today I subconsciously created that environment for myself. I ended up taking a shower, which I didn't plan to do, but I ended up taking a shower, listening to meditative music, and allowing myself to just completely clear my head. No more scrolling, no more taking in. Now it is just me clearing my space so that I can channel and say whatever it is that I feel called to say. I ended up staying in my bathroom even and taking notes on my whiteboard while I let the water run so that I could really create that environment for myself. And it worked. It did. It came through to me what all I wanted to talk about. And now here we are. We're going to dive in. I just wanted to share all that with you though, because this was my process. This is how I got unstuck and how I worked through needing to create. Let's talk about what it might feel like if you are feeling stuck. Just for lack of a better word, I'm going to keep using it. Maybe you feel super indecisive and maybe you have a big decision weighing over you, but it's trickling down and making even the smallest decisions feel so difficult. Like you just have no clue what you even want to eat for dinner. Or maybe you're overthinking things. Maybe you don't know what to say. You're stuck in your creative space. You want to create something, but you don't know what to do. A lot of times when we're feeling stuck, there's simple solutions, but they're so simple that we miss them. A simple solution, especially if you're feeling stuck creatively or you're overthinking things or whatever, is to change your environment, to go someplace different. So if you're trying to write and you're not getting anything out in your house, maybe go for a walk and try to gather some inspiration. Allow yourself to clear your mind. Maybe you need to make a big decision and you're not sure which way to go. Again, get out of the space that you are in. That is the simple answer. It's always about either changing our perspective or changing where we are. You might find yourself in a predicament. I think that is probably the better word, is maybe you're in a predicament. And when you're in a predicament, that's when you can't change a situation. And in that case, you have to change yourself. You have to change the way you're viewing the situation, or you need to change a belief within yourself. And that's when you can ask yourself the question of, where am I giving my power? Where am I placing my power in this situation? What's interesting is anxiety, 90% of the time when we are anxious, is because we are in a predicament and we don't know what to do. I can say I've experienced that. I've experienced that kind of anxiety. I needed to either break up with someone, if I'm going to go way back, younger years. I needed to quit a job. That always made me feel anxious. If I wasn't acting, if I wasn't doing what I needed to do, I needed to get out of a situation that I was in and it was going to feel really hard, that increases anxiety so much. I talked about honoring yourself and being honest with yourself a couple episodes ago, and that really is what comes through here with this. If you're feeling stuck, the question is, are you being honest with yourself about where you are? And what do you need to do to shift your perspective? I thought of this really cool story a couple weeks ago, and I think it applies here. I had a photography business for a really long time, and I used to always go to workshops. Every year I went to a workshop to learn from whatever photographer was the most amazing that year. And I went to one workshop for a guy that did wedding photography. He's from Australia. He is phenomenal. I still follow him. I love his insight and the things he shares. But he was talking about leveling up in your photography business. And he gave this advice. When you're standing to take a picture, you're going to go to where you would typically go and take the picture. But as you're standing there in your typical place, look around the room and see where else you could go. Change your perspective. It's about moving to a different space and seeing it from a different light, seeing it from a different angle. And that's such simple advice, but it's incredibly powerful. And it truly did help me level up my photography, because instead of standing in the typical location, I moved just 90 degrees to the left or the right in any given situation. And all of a sudden, the light is pouring in differently. You can see details that you couldn't see before. You capture a moment that maybe you wouldn't have captured in the way that you did. Those are the photos that left big impact, a huge impression. So I think about that in terms of life. We're standing here looking at a situation from one side. We're in this predicament. What do I need to do to move 90 degrees to the left or the right so that I can see different details, so that I can get a better picture of what is happening and maybe change what I believe about a situation? Changing perspective is a superpower. Because a lot of times we get stuck in our own little mind from our own viewpoint, and we don't see it any other way. But that is like cement blocks on your ankles. It holds you down. In order to get unstuck, you have to move around. You have to clear the energy of where you are. But let's jump back to the idea of where are you giving your power. Power is the fundamental ingredient of life. Everything is a negotiation of power. Everything is either empowering you or disempowering you. If you're feeling disempowered in a situation that you're feeling stuck in, then that's the question of what spell are you under that's leading you to believe that you have to stay right here? Or that's leading you to believe that there's no way out from where you are. None. I want to empower you. I want you to know that you aren't. I don't care what your situation is. You are not stuck where you are. You might be in a predicament, but you are not stuck where you are. Like, let's use the example of finances. Maybe you've made some really poor decisions over the years, and that's led you to this space of feeling like in order to clean the slate, you have to make a drastic decision. Well, is there one option or are there multiple? You always have options. You always do. Where we get stuck is in the idea that it has to be one way. No, I'm not selling my car. I need my car. I love my car. No, I'm not going to budget. Budgeting is for poor people. I deserve to buy these things for myself. I work hard. These are the ideas that keep you in a low place financially, that keep you stuck and tied down financially. But if you were to step out of your situation and look at things from a different angle, what could you see? Where are you giving your power? If you feel like you can't get rid of a vehicle, then you are giving your power to that vehicle. You are tied to it. And if that vehicle's car payment, if that payment is so high that it is drowning you financially, then it's keeping you stuck. It's keeping you there. And I know, I'm saying this, I know that the cost of everything has skyrocketed right now. And I know that things can get really stressful. But I've actually been there. I've been there even to the point with the car payment. I mean, I had a huge ego shift when I had to get a different vehicle a couple years ago. I've talked about that story a lot in season 1. I don't need to go back to it, I don't think, but I just want to empathize and say, I get it. It's freaking hard. But if you're giving your power to any material thing, then that is disempowering you. It is disempowering your soul. So how can you become more neutral in that space? How can you become totally impersonal to what's laid out in front of you? The number of bills, the amount of debt, the vehicle, the house, the habit. A lot of times we have bad habits that really drain us financially. Where are you giving your power? What are you giving your power to? Everything is a negotiation of power, and everything is an illusion. Everything is an illusion. When you zoom out, what really matters? What actually matters? What's really funny is when I look in my notebook, I had brain dumped the idea for an episode about feeling stuck. And then right below it, it was the idea of the money story episode. So I'm sure I will dive more into that money story. Everybody always wants to break that block that they feel like they have around money. But truthfully, what I'm talking about today, feeling stuck, really goes for anything, not just money. Maybe you feel stuck in your relationship. Maybe you feel like you've tried everything you can and you're not making progress. That one's tough. Anything is tough, right? But that can be tough, especially if there's kids involved, but you're just not happy in this relationship any longer, this marriage any longer, and you feel stuck there. You feel those cement blocks on your ankles. Again, the question is, what are you giving your power to? You're in a predicament. It's a lot of work to leave. You have to consider multiple people in a situation. Where can you go? But now I'm going to ask, what can you do differently? Maybe your approach changes. Maybe you do a workshop together. Maybe you dive even deeper into studying healthy communication. I said a long time ago to my husband, healthy communication or no communication. If we don't have healthy communication, then that is time for a break. And we talked about that on last week's episode when we were discussing how we've worked to give each other grace in our differences and honor each other. And it's not always been easy. And we've been in some really tight, tough situations, predicaments, if you will. And we've had to figure out how to see things differently because we get stuck in seeing things from our own view, from our own perspective. And that victimization of, well, you hurt me. And there's no way to make any forward moving progress until we put ourselves in the other person's shoes. And I think you could do this visually. You could do a visual exercise of sitting and closing your eyes and seeing yourself put on their shoes. Where do they put their shoes on every day? And then where are they going? Literally move throughout the day in this visual exercise to try and help understand where they're coming from. A lot of times, all we want is to be understood and to be heard, but we're not always going to be understood. But if we can make that effort for someone else where we haven't previously, maybe that's the shift that needs to happen to change things. What can you do differently that you haven't done before? Maybe you feel stuck in your home. Where you live is 70% of your happiness. I heard that a while ago. And maybe that number's changed. It's been a while since I heard that statistic thrown out there, but this was me. Big time, this was me. In 2008, my husband and I bought a townhouse. And we just really wanted to get out of my mom's basement more than anything. I think I was really dealing with some major postpartum depression because, of course, in a basement, there's not a ton of windows. There's not a lot of sunlight. I just had a baby. I don't know. It was just tough. Looking back, I kind of wish we would have stayed, but I know that our path went the way that it was supposed to, so I have no regrets, but we bought this townhouse and we refinished it. It was a foreclosure. And we thought we would only stay there for a couple years and then we would sell it and find a home. Well, in 2009, the market crashed. It really bottomed out. I don't know if any of you remember. And not everybody listening lives in the United States. So if you're not from the United States, maybe you missed this. I don't know what it was like wherever you are. But over here, we had a huge bubble burst and everything just crashed. So where we thought we were going to sell in a couple of years, turns out we had to hold on to it for almost 10. I think at year 9, we finally got it off of our plates and we literally broke even. Actually, we lost money. We lost a lot of money because we ended up renting it out. But I felt very stuck there because we did not think for a second there was any other option other than to sell it in order to go somewhere else. And we weren't going to be able to do that because we were too underwater. Well, I don't know what happened. I watched an episode of Oprah. I know that sounds so funny, but me and Oprah, man, she helps me sometimes with my ideas and thoughts and inspiration. But she did an episode about transcendental meditation and talked about how much your life's happiness is tied to where you live and the energy of your home compared to where the sun is and all these things. And I realized this big light bulb went off like, oh my gosh, I am so unhappy here. I feel like the energy is so heavy all the time. I have to figure something out. So it kind of got the wheels turning. But then the very next week, her very next episode was an episode with Tony Robbins. And he is this great motivational speaker. In fact, I will throw the recommendation out there for you to watch. I Am Not Your Guru. It's on Netflix. It's great. I haven't watched it in a few years, but I know that you will love it because if you like listening to this stuff, then you're going to love it. Anyways, she had this episode with Tony Robbins and he talked about you're never stuck. He talked about that and in probably totally different words, but he says this, there's always options. It's how you're looking at any situation. How can you shift? But you're never stuck where you are. And I thought, okay, we're never stuck. We're never stuck. What can we do? What can we do? So I started calling around to places, seeing what else I could do. I went and met with, there was a commercial builder a couple towns over that in the place where I really wanted to be. So I went and met with them and she gave me some ideas and I talked to another lender and they gave me some ideas. And I realized that we could rent that out, go live at home with my mom for however many months. And then we could close on a home that we built. And I just genuinely, I cannot tell you how mind blown I was in that process because my husband and I, we did not make a lot of money, like at all. I don't know how we pulled it off, to be honest with you, because they even got more strict on loans and things at that point. But we did. We pulled it off. We rented our townhouse out. We moved back home, which was not easy with animals and kids now, multiple kids. And we got ourselves in a better situation. And then 4 years later, we did it again. We sold both properties, moved back home, and now we're in this home that we are now where we are just so incredibly happy. But my point in that story is each time I felt like I was stuck where I was and I was so unhappy. I know that maybe that sounds ridiculous, but again, 70% of your happiness is tied to where you live. And both times I was not happy where I was. So I had to think, what can we do? And I wasn't thinking this on my own. Me and my husband are very good about ping-ponging off of each other ideas and things like that. So together we had pros and cons lists. We talked it to death all the time. Like, well, let's do this. Let's do this. Can we afford this? All the questions constantly throwing more information on the table in order to make a decision that was going to be best for us and our family. But we were never stuck. There was always an option. And we were blessed to be able to have my mom to lean into and be able to go stay with her. But that wasn't easy either. It's just not easy to recombine multiple families, especially when you've lived on your own. And then at that point, I think we had 2 dogs, 3 kids. It was just a lot. But we did it. And now here we are. So sometimes your options are not easy. Sometimes the path to get to where you want to be is bumpy. It's hard. It's difficult. But you gotta do it in order to get to where you want to be. People say take 2 steps backwards in order to go 5 steps forward. I don't know if I actually like that analogy because I didn't feel like I was going backwards. I felt like I was maybe sidestepping and pausing and then gonna move forward. I don't know that I really went backwards. We were always leveling up. You are always leveling up. You might sidestep and pause for a little bit while you figure yourself out, but you're never going backwards. I just don't believe that. Just like I don't believe you're ever stuck. You always have options. They just might not be what you want. They might not be ideal. You might not want to sell that $50,000 vehicle that you're making payments on and putting yourself in a $20,000 vehicle that is not anywhere near as nice. But could you look at it like this? It's just a sidestep for a moment while you level yourself up. It's just temporary. It doesn't mean you're going to be there forever. It doesn't mean that that is your destined reality for the rest of your life. Sometimes we got to sidestep. I had a 7th grade history teacher that always said this. I think I've shared this before. He said, you don't have to do anything but die and pay taxes. Like, you don't have to be where you are. You don't have to do what you're doing. You don't have to feel stuck. It's all in how you're looking at things. It always is in how we are seeing it. I'll share with you what I wrote. Gosh, I don't know when I wrote this. Maybe 6-7 months ago. I was going to title it Pulling Yourself Up and Out of a Slump. Because feeling stuck can feel like you're in a slump. It can kind of be the same thing. It takes steady, consistent action, one step at a time. Okay, maybe. I might actually disagree with myself. I feel like it takes perspective shift. That's what I think it takes. So I spent 2021 anxious and in a deep, deep slump. 2020, about the same. 2019, really dark space. I had moments of inspiration and happiness, but nothing was sticking. I'd still revert back to those feelings of slumpiness. But what I recognize now is that I was unaligned and not fully leaning into my inner truth. I was trying, but I was forcing things that I just could not continue to force. February 22nd, 2022, I laid in the bath and meditated, allowed myself to truly clear and reset. I said, no more am I controlling this situation. I called in God's guidance and said, use me. I will do whatever I am called to do. I will lean into that every day. And I did feel very stuck, very down, very depressed in the beginning of 2022. I had quit my job, kind of. I don't know how to explain it. I was in direct sales. I kind of stepped back, and then I stepped way back. I didn't even intend to step back as far back as I went, or step down from that. And I felt like a complete failure, even though I knew I wasn't. Deep down, I knew I wasn't, but I did feel like I'd failed at something. And I thought, how am I going to start a coaching business? Who am I to say anything to anyone? And I was stuck in that mindset for 2 months, 3 months, maybe 2 months, 3 months, something like that. But on February 22nd, I keep seeing powerful day for manifesting 22222. And so I did. I was like, you know what? I'm going to put myself in the environment that I need. I did. That was subconscious again, very subconscious. I put myself in the bathtub. Remember, in human design, my environment is kitchen's wet, which means I need to be near running water. That's where I really gain my inspiration. So I'm in the bathtub, listening to meditation music and really just relaxing and being. Like 3 or 4 hours later, I bought my LLC for Lionheart Coaching Co. And I did a perspective shift. I said, you know what? I'm just going to start walking the path. I'm just going to take one step at a time. So I bought my LLC. I logged in to finish my life coaching schooling. That was my next step. This is probably why I said it takes steady, consistent action one step at a time. Because not only did I have my perspective shift, I also then started taking very small steps. I bought my LLC. I started taking my classes again so I could finish and get my certificate. Then I signed up for a Reiki training. Then I did that. And then it was just one thing after the other. Then I found a place where I could see people in person. And then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. And it was all these little small steps that helped get me to where I am now. And I wouldn't have seen where I am now then. I'm always dreaming. Trust me. I'm always dreaming and scheming and thinking about what I want to do and all the things I could create. In fact, this morning when I was taking my shower and thinking about my podcast, I was thinking, man, I really want to build out a podcast studio in my basement with the lights and the chairs so people can come and be vibing with me in this cool space. And I'm always dreaming and scheming, and maybe we'll get there. Maybe we will do that one day. But the point is sometimes we can't see it until we take that first step. We have to have that shift in perspective. We have to let go of what we think life should be like. We have to stop giving our power to these material things, to these other things. We have to call it back in. Call it back into yourself. Anything that charges you up, that gets you riled up in any way, is you're giving your power to it. It's just what it is. You're giving your power to it. There used to be people in my life that as soon as I started talking to them, I would get emotionally charged. I'm giving my power to that person. They say things that piss me off and whoo! We have to disconnect from that. We have to call our power back in. We have to become totally impersonal so we can shift our perspective and take that step. Take that first step. So, if you feel like you are in a slumpy space, if you are not happy in your life, if you feel just dragged down, like you've got cement blocks on your ankles, you feel stuck, Okay, no other word. Where can you shift your perspective? Question 1. Question 2 is, where are you giving your power? How can you shake it up? How can you move 90 degrees to one side or the other so that you can see the details differently? If you're not happy in your space, maybe just move your furniture around. That's like the best thing to do. Move that furniture around. If you're not happy with your finances, throw all the information on the table. Throw it all out there. And then lay out all of your options, even the hard ones, even the ones you don't want, even the ones that will take more work. Sure, it'd be easy to just wipe the slate clean, but what you have to change are the habits and the mindset. That's the harder path. Choose the harder one. Choose the harder path. If it's in your relationship, where can you change your perspective? Where can you see it differently? Because you're not stuck. You're not stuck. If you do need to get a divorce, know that it's okay. It's okay. But the way you handle it, that's what matters. And if there's kids involved, making sure that you include therapists in this journey so that you can help them transition from a 2-parent home to a single-parent home, or get that healthy communication with your spouse, regardless of whether you're staying or not. What can you do differently? How can you put yourself in the other person's shoes so that you can see it differently? Even if they're not operating in a healthy way, if you can at least shift your perspective and see and gain that understanding for yourself, it could really help you in your process. If you're feeling stuck in your business, step away. Allow yourself to go into that space where you can clear your mind and allow for inspiration to flow through. I'm not meaning inspiration from consuming and seeing what other people are doing. I'm meaning inspiration that comes through you. God guidance to lead you to where you're supposed to be. Being a business owner can be really tough sometimes. And sometimes we aren't sure if we're doing it right. We're not sure if we're in the right direction or whatever. Here's a little hint for you. You are. You're in the right place. You're always in the right place. Sometimes it doesn't make sense though, but go to your quiet space and allow for that inspiration to flow through. Go have a meeting with somebody who does things a little differently than you and just bounce ideas off. All right, my friend, I'm about done here. So I'm just going to leave you with this. And I've already said it, but I'm going to say it again. You are never stuck. You always have options. There's always a way out, even if it doesn't feel like it. It might be a really hard path that you have to begin walking down, but you can do it. Remember how strong you are. Remember that power that's in you. And remember that what's most important is that you live life so totally aligned with who you are at your core. That's where true happiness comes, is when you lean into who you are at your core. You don't do what everybody else is telling you to do. You do what you feel called to do. And you can have compassion for the people on your path along the way. But I really believe that standing in your power and in your truth, that is when you feel whole. We have to honor ourselves in that way. So if you feel stuck right now, do me a favor and go find your favorite dancing song and cut it on and boogie down. Get that energy moving. Then go sit in a meditation, sit in some quiet, and see what comes through to you. Go for a walk. Go for an intuitive walk. Just go wherever you feel guided. If you feel like turning left, turn left. If you want to walk off another path, go off the other path. Just allow yourself to lean into that intuition, because you will find your way. I know you will. You just got to listen to yourself, not other people. All right. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love so much if you shared it. And if you want to tag me on social, my Instagram handle is @lifewithmandy_, or you can tag my coaching Insta. It's @LionheartCoachingCo. Please remember, you are appreciated, you are loved, and you are valued. Bye for now.